bring your best so I don't hear any bitching when I beat you guys. You know what I mean? I don't want to, that's all I ask. Just bring your best. And I expect nothing less. You know what I mean? Both them gentlemen have a love to be, they both want to be NWA World Champion. And so I expect that we're going to go out there and really leave it all out there in the ring. And I expect nothing less but the best from them guys. So at the end of it, I can raise my hand and you can all remember who the world champion is.
What is going on, guys? Another episode of the HSP podcast is with you, and we have got a great interview for you today. First and foremost, I am Jeff Martin alongside my tag team partner, the trendsetter, Brian Berga. We are the Jersey Wrecking Crew, and joining us today is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Man, sounds good, Trevor, doesn't it? The NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Trevor Murdoch, joins us. We're going to talk about Hard Times 3 this Saturday on FITE. You've got a big matchup here. But before we get to that, man, how are you doing, man? How's everything going? Fight week? You got the jitters? Are you confident? How you feeling, man?
I'm in my zone, fellas. You know what I mean? I've tried to be the type of champion that doesn't bitch and complain when things get changed on you and when things aren't exactly perfect. I try to keep myself in a zone and ready for anything and everything. As you guys can tell, I've been hitting it a little bit more. So,
there you go.
Especially when you're wrestling a guy like Tyrus, you know what I mean? He's 6'7", pushing every bit of 400 pounds, strong as an ox. So I had to step up my game for sure, just specifically for him.
So let's talk about the main event, and that it's a three-way match. It's you, Tyrus, and Matt Cardona, man. This is probably the toughest test you're going to get because you know what, you don't have to get pinned to lose this, right? You know, you have to be on your toes here. But we're definitely going to delve into this match. But I just got to ask you, I did the intro for you, right? NWA World Heavyweight Champion. When you're starting out and you're training and you're doing the grind, right? Starting out. Is it still surreal to hear that? I mean, NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, like, is that something that a young Trevor Murdoch would have ever thought could have been possible?
No, actually. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted it, you know what I mean? But, like, it's no different than you saying, I want to be WWE World Heavyweight Champion. You know what I mean? It's I guess you'd call it a pipe dream. For me, man, it's something I'd always wanted to be and do, but as I was coming up in the business, NWA wasn't what it is today. I got lucky enough that at a midpoint of my career, NWA kind of picked up, and man, I was only supposed to wrestle one match. That was all I was there for. I was supposed to wrestle Ricky Starks. And, thankfully, one match led to another, and, man, yeah, it's a bit surreal at times to hear NWA World Heavyweight Champion Trevor Murdoch.
It's definitely something that you wouldn't say you didn't earn. You earned every bit of that. Most people feel sometimes that they're deserving of something for whatever point in their career, considering the ups and downs. Now that you're a two-time champion, it's the question I always gets asked too. Like, what's more significant? Was the first one more significant? Was the second one more significant? But more importantly, though, even though you are getting ready to defend your title, and obviously you're in game mode right now, have you had that ability to sit back and be like, wow, look what I've accomplished right now, considering it wasn't supposed to work out this way?
I'm definitely appreciative that I've gotten some great opportunities and I've been able to capitalize on them. But as champion, I have to be focused on what's ahead of me and what's next. I'll have time to reminisce and be thankful for the time I've been world champion. But right now I need to focus on being world champion.
You've got a big main event. Obviously, guys like Matt Cardona, who wrestled in WWE, Tyrus in WWE as well, you yourself, and look at where the roads have crossed. It all intersects, and it all meets this Saturday in Louisiana for this triple threat match. Probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest matchup in NWA history right now, because what you're fighting for is not just only for the title, but you kind of are fighting for that tradition, right, of NWA, because it's not like the AEWs and the WWEs right now. It's more to the old school professional wrestling. And you've got two guys, and let's just say it, man, I'm going to say they're sports entertainers. they're sports entertainers, and you're trying to combat that as well. Do you feel the pressure of also being the face of the company, but also trying to also fight for the tradition of the NWA?
Completely. But I'm ready for this. I've worked, like you guys have talked about, all the hard work I've invested in the last 25 years in pro wrestling. I'm ready for it. And to be world champion, you have to expect it. You have to expect that you're going to step into the ring with some of the toughest guys in the world. For me, I want to continue to project. We're a smash mouth style pro wrestling. Our men and women, grown ass men and women, go out there and beat the hell out of each other. When you step into the ring, all the entertainment value is gone. Like you have to face me. That's why Matt Cardona has a huge social media following, and he does a fantastic job running his mouth and talking shit on said social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that. I don't respond because ultimately, at the end of the day, he's already admitted and said that he's going to be there at this date, at this time. And when you step into the ring with me, all that shit means meaningless. You got to face me. You got to face me at my best. And you're going to be facing me trying to take something, probably the most important thing, away from me in pro wrestling that I've ever earned. So run your mouth, talk your shit. I don't care. Ultimately, you've got to step in between those ropes and face me.
Well, something that's never been has been something familiar is being in that squared circle, as they say. And whether it's in WWE, and Jeff had mentioned AEW and all these promotions out there, and you've been part of various promotions as you've continued onto your journey to where it's led to you now, as we're talking about the triple threat match. When ultimately we're looking at this match, but also just came back in terms of what the NWA was representing now, with it on your shoulders, you're carrying the face of NWA. Does it feel like home to you now? Because most people go from promotion to promotion, and they're like, well, I'm doing this really till I develop a name for myself, or I become more acclimated or feel comfortable. Does NWA feel like home to you right now?
Yes. NWA is home to me. I have no desire or aspirations to go to any other company at any full-time capacity. I know, like everybody says, don't ever use the word never. I in that sense can say never. I'm going to end my career with the NWA. And when it's time for me to step out from behind, in front of the camera, I'm going to step behind it. This is where I fit. Cinderella, quote unquote, has found her shoe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My house, this is my home. And I'm going to do everything in my power with what's left in my wrestling career to try to help elevate it.
Almost definitely, man. And obviously, it's home. Obviously, Billy Corgan is a huge part of the company and its success. Obviously, you're the face now of the company now because you hold that 10 pounds of gold. How does his vision for the company heading towards the future makes you comfortable with knowing that NWA is here to stay?
Billy's an old school pro wrestling fan. His thoughts about what kind of wrestler I want to be align very similar to what he wants. He is the type of promoter that allows us to go out there and do what we know how to do, and that's wrestle. Now, are there going to be times that we're going to disagree about directions of the company or certain things? Yeah. We both care and love this business and love the NWA. And if we didn't argue a little bit or disagree at times, I don't think we'd really honestly have our whole heart invested into it. Because ultimately he wants to put on the best show. And when you've got a guy that has that kind of idealism, that wants to move forward and make sure that we're going out there and putting out something different, but something real, it does nothing but confirm my reasoning on why I want to stay, and I will always end up being an NWA guy. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. It makes a lot of sense. But Trevor, like you had mentioned before prior, saying how like it feels like home. You plan on no aspirations of going anywhere else. You're gonna end your career when the time comes for you with the NWA. But were there moments before NWA that you were thinking it might have been over? There are moments you thought, you know what, maybe this is it before that opportunity presented itself to you.
Oh, for sure, gentlemen. You know, guys, if you've ever watched me or any part of my career, I'm not jacked. I'm not cut up. I don't have a six pack. I am a big, burly, strong pro wrestler. I look like an old school pro wrestler. And as the times of pro wrestling change, I wasn't quite what everybody wanted when it comes to appearance wise. Working wrestling wise, I was on point with everything, but it just obviously aesthetics is very important. And it got to be a point, probably wasn't, it was 5, 6 years ago that I just decided, especially when Harley had gotten sick and I wanted to help out more with him and WLW, um, it it felt like it was time for me to step away. Then Harley passed away, and again, I felt like maybe that was another signal or sign that my career's gone full circle, and maybe it's time to just step away. I knew nobody would ever fault me or give me a hard time or look down on me for calling it quits. I figured that for a fat boy from Fredericktown, Missouri, I figured that I could call it a good career. Um, but the NWA sent Nick Aldis, who at the time was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and Dave Lagana, who was the executive producer at the time, sent them. They came to Harley's funeral so NWA could pay their respects to Harley. And Dave and Nick pulled me to the side and asked me what I was doing, what my plans were, my future plans were. And I explained to them that I was kind of on I wouldn't say a retirement tour, but I was wrestling for a couple promoters that had been good to me and kind of finishing out a couple dates for them. And I was just going to be done. And they said, well, we'd really like you to come down and wrestle. We're doing this show called Power. And I actually turned them down at first. Because I know it's TV. You've got to, you really got to step up your game, and you got to be on point. You can't go into TV lazy and not with the right mind focus. You know what I mean? I turned them down, and they were talking to me more about it. So you need to just come out, be a producer. You don't even have to wrestle. You know what I mean? Come out. We want your experience to help put matches together and help, the locker room, keep everything flowing. You know what I mean? And I said, okay, I'll come out for one show. And I'm an old school wrestler. I take my gear to 99% of the shows I go to, just out of habit. Not so much these days, but for sure then. And when I showed up at GPB Studios there in Georgia, I ran into Dave, and the first thing he asked me was, did I bring my gear? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you're wrestling Ricky Starks tonight. And walked away. All right. I guess. All right. You suckered me. Got me, boys.
And the rest is history, as they say. Basically,
yeah,
right?
and then you're old school wrestler, right? And then you look at the set and you look at, man, this is everything that I grew up watching, right, as a kid. And obviously the ties with Harley, who's a huge influence in your wrestling career, obviously. NWA and Harley Race goes hand in hand, right? So obviously it was like a match made in heaven once you set foot in those studios. And we're all lucky for it, man, because it's kind of been like a rebirth of Trevor Murdoch, sort of. And you look like you belong in there. And those people that remember you from the WWE days are getting to know you in the aspect of, man, he can, he's so much more than just a tag team wrestler. And look what he's doing. He can carry a pay-per-view. He can carry a show. You and Nick Aldis, I mean, you have a lot of history. You mentioned him, and obviously I got to ask you the question, because obviously Billy's been on doing media as well. And I want to ask you the question is, you got a lot of history with Nick.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be doing our job as journalists here without asking you, making this fluff, Trevor. We can't be all like, kissing your butt. You know what I mean? So do you kind of feel that this is kind of overshadowing your main event, the whole situation between Nick Aldis and Billy Corgan? Because this is a big night for you guys. This is a big main event. You're, trying to, be the face of your brand, trying to save it from Matt Cardona and Tyrus, your title. Do you feel like this whole thing is like overshadowed your match?
No shit, no, boys.
No.
You guys know the press gimmick. Good press, bad press. It don't matter. It's press. What's going on with Billy and Nick? That's between those guys. I really wish we wouldn't, try to run the company into the ground. There's a lot of good young men and women that have been working their ass off for the NWA to try to give the best product possible. So I'm not a big fan of dragging the company out in public. If you have issues, work them out, but I just leave the boys kind of out of it. But other than that, no, that's I don't give a shit, fellas. That's the thing about being a wise man and having growth and maturity is you tend to just not give a shit what other people are doing and you focus on yourself. If everybody in this world, gentlemen, would just focus on themselves. Now, granted, I know it's not as juicy. I know it's not as exciting, but if you minded your own damn business, boy, how happy would we all be? And boy, how much would get done?
Well, there's a lot of wrestlers.
See, Jeff, mind your own business.
There's a lot. I know. Is he telling me to mind my own business?
Yeah,
Just focus on them.
Focus on you, man.
Listen,
stay in your lane.
There's
Jeff.
a lot of wrestlers that if they took Trevor Murdoch's advice would not be in situations that they're in right now. So
true.
Let's just say that, right? If people just focused on the in-ring and not what's going outside. But obviously,
forget Paul Heyman. We're speaking to the wise man right now.
I know.
Words of wisdom spoken by Trevor Murdoch, NWA champion.
But you'll always be linked to Nick, though, because, you will always be linked. So that's why the question is.
Personally, professionally, Nick and I get along great. You know what I mean? And Nick went, for 6 months, him and I were married together. And we went from town to town, and we built a story that people are going to talk about for a long time. So I have, the utmost respect for Nick when it comes to his wrestling ability and what he can do in the ring.
Now, when it comes to, wrestling ability, what we can do in the ring, for Jeff and I, when we've been doing this, and we've always had the pleasure of speaking to talent, promoters, and obviously speaking to the NWA World Heavyweight Champion here as well, I just want to ask you, Trevor, I mean, everybody's always looking for people who are individuals who have that it factor, right? But for me, what I've always appreciated and really enjoyed about this industry is that it's what most people fail to understand, it's such a huge learning curve. Most people feel like, I can jump right in and do it. And most people either they figure it out or they're always still constantly learning. Would you say still at this stage in your career, you're constantly learning and still figuring things out as you go? And to you, what entails a finished product for yourself? Knowing that, I mean, you just said it yourself too, right? As you mature and get older, you start thinking things in a different perspective. From a career standpoint, was there any particular moment you're like, I got it. I know who I am now as a professional wrestler?
I think certainly when I started with NWA, that's when I really started feeling that confidence. When you bounce from company to company or you work for other people, you have to tend to stick within their own parameters, and you give them what they want. You know what I mean? You ask them, why'd you bring me here? What can I do to better the show? When I came to the NWA, it was, I asked them that same question, what do you guys want from me ultimately? If I'm going to stick around, what do you guys want from me ultimately? And they said, we just want you. And I said, well, no, I mean, you guys got me. Like, what do you want from me out there in the ring in front of, with the people and stuff? And Billy told me, he's like, I want you to go be you. Go out and wrestle. I'll do the booking. You do the wrestling. We'll do well. And it really kind of confused me at first because 99% of my career, I've been told what people want out of me, and I try to fit into their parameters. This was go out there and be me. And so at first it was a little scary, but then once I realized, like, I'm not going to get in trouble if I do this, or if I try this and it gets over, it'll be great. But if it doesn't get over, I'm not going to get any heat in the back. I can, you know what I mean? I'm not going to lose any steam with anybody or lose any faith from anybody. Once I was able to get that freedom, I found out exactly who I was because the people would tell me what they wanted. You know what I mean? And yeah, will I ever stop being the guy that's, says, oh, I've learned everything and I've got it. Like, I feel like I've got a good idea of it, but I'm always learning. I'm always trying to, especially when you're working with different pro wrestlers, you've got to change and evolve with them and try to make magic with them. And I try to pick out what's worked in those situations and add it to, things that are in my future. But I don't think I'll ever be the guy that says, yeah, I've learned it all and I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm constantly trying to get better. And, of course, as you get older, you lose a couple steps on certain things, whether, you know what I mean, in the ring. So I try to compensate that by being more, more tell a better story or more aggressive or whatever needs to happen. I try to, what I lose on one end, I try to add on the other end, if that makes any sense at all.
Oh yeah.
That's a great answer there. You know what I mean? You're always learning. You're always a student of the game. We're talking here to Trevor Murdoch, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. This Saturday, three-way match for the championship against Matt Cardona and Tyrus. Listen, just going back a little bit with what's going on with Nick. Every time someone leaves, there's always opportunity, right? There's always, and it looks like, unless something happens, Nick Aldis will be going elsewhere. But it opens the door for new people and creates opportunity. Obviously, there's a lot of hungry people in that locker room that you've got. Who should we keep an eye on going into the future? Someone that you would like to get in the room with and see, hey, maybe we can make some magic here in the ring.
I think Kratos is one you should certainly keep an eye on. I think Odinson is one you should keep an eye on. We just brought in a young guy named Dax Draper. I think he's got some serious potential. We've also got some hidden gems in there with, you guys got like Aaron Stevens. You have Mike Knox is a big guy, is always a threat. That's the one great thing about the NWA locker room. We're starting to get a roster where at any time you can pull these guys out and put them in that top level spot, and they'll get over and help elevate the company. That's how pro wrestling used to be extremely successful, is when you had a locker room full of people that either A, or could get over at any minute, or B, could step into that role and take over that next spot.
Definitely. And when you're talking about that in terms of the talent out there that are the hidden gems that we should be on the lookout for, something I've always noticed, at least with my time and Jeff's time enjoying and appreciating pro wrestling for what it is, as it's transitioned into sports entertainment as well, is the style seems to have changed. I remember talking to Jeff literally 3 days ago before we knew we were talking to you, and I said to him, everybody locks up and nobody really works on a body part anymore. Or it seems to be going fast and fast. It's going spot for spot. It's going up here. It's going fast, 100 miles an hour, and really never slows down. We're just kind of comparing how we kind of fell in love with wrestling ourselves too.
Psychology,
things like that. But when it comes to the style of pro wrestling, clearly it's changed. Clearly it's evolved, and you pride yourself to be able to work. I mean, you're the champion. You need to work with everybody from size to shapes, all shapes and sizes, right?
Right.
Do you like the direction in which it's going to? Or do you feel there's still certain things that most talent can focus on more if it was up to you to decide, listen, what tells a good story and what makes a good match in the ring?
I will always, gentlemen, be the proponent of more storytelling. The more storytelling you have in a match, and I know this sounds, some guys are, it's lazy, lazy thinking. But the more that you can tell a story, the less you have to do in the ring physically. The more you tell a story, the more emotional connection you have with the crowd. The more you tell a story, those amazing moves or spots that you have, you can break them out at the right time where it means the most. And if you get hurt, you get paid the most, which is called a pay-per-view. You leave all that stuff to build up to that pay-per-view, because people are paying a lot of money and you get paid extra to do pay-per-views. Storytelling saves your body so you can have a 30, 40-year career. There's a reason why Ric Flair is able to still wrestle today. Let me.
Well, yeah, we get there, yeah.
Let's say 3 or 4 years ago, 4 or 5. You know what I mean? But even
I know what you mean.
7 years. You understand what I'm saying, though, guys? I wrestled Ric Flair in the WWE. What the hell? what was I doing wrestling? Like,
Yeah.
he was in amazing shape and could still tell a story in the ring and lead you around. And like, he's a prime example of what storytelling does for your career and your longevity.
Most definitely, man. And obviously, too, you talk about the storytelling. And Brian, I'm going to tell you this, trendsetter, is that, watching your matchup with Nick and the story that it was built, like the underdog, like, oh, way he's going to beat Nick, right? And then the way you had that crowd, and they were just, waiting for you to, get the victory, and once you did, once the 1, 2, 3, it paid off. The storytelling paid off. You told the story, you told a story in the ring, and then the payoff for the fans was you defeating Nick Aldis. And that is truly what wrestling should always be. You have the story and the payoff.
It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
Guys, if you break it down, it's pretty basic. Good versus evil. You know what I mean? Young versus old. Experience versus, you know what I mean? Like, it's not hard. We watch it in every single movie that we watch.
Yes.
There's always a bad guy. There's always a good guy. There's always a plot that the bad guy did something bad and good guy's got to get revenge. At the end, the good guy wins, and we all turn off the channel and say that was a great fucking movie.
Yeah. But to your respect, Trevor, though, as much as I agree with you in saying that, like, you can have a great movie or supposed idea, but if the script is not right, if the actors can't give you that connection to the screen, it's not going to work. So yes, you're true. The basics of it are very easy.
And then the way you're relatable with the fans, dude. I mean,
but that very few and far between do I still see those individuals to this day and age that can get that connection to the crowd. That's where, at least from a fan standpoint, I can understand when most pro wrestlers say it's so addictive. I can only imagine to be able to hold that audience in the palm of your hand and make them feel something particular that you want them to feel at that particular moment. It's got to be amazing, but not a lot of people, unfortunately, can do it. I think it just, with the times, it's an art form that kind of, it's like, okay, that takes too much time. Can I move on to the next thing? Can I do more CGI stuff to make up with a good story?
Fellas, it's patience. And that also goes back to, I think somebody, I don't know which guy made a comment about there's a disconnect a little bit, like a time lapse between wrestling generations. There used to be a form, this art form got passed down to generation to generation to generation, and it seems like we've missed a huge gap that's been able to pass that storytelling on down to the next generation and let them experience it. Because I do get in the ring with a lot of young guys, especially when I'm wrestling on the indies, and I explain to them that we're going to have a different style match than probably what you're normal to. And when they hear about it, they either it doesn't resonate with them, or B, they just think it's like, oh, this is going to be too slow. But when I take them out there and we're going at the pace that I want, and they're starting to get the reactions that they want, that they've never gotten before, and I'm starting to get the proper reactions at the right time, and we're able to get the people emotionally connected to it, then some of these young guys are like, holy shit, like, how did we do that? And, I explained to them whatever the situation is, why I did what I did, and what my thought process was at the time, so they can start understanding that, like, we can really get these people involved. It's not about just a move. It's about getting them connected to you, where they feel sympathy for you as a babyface, or they have legitimate anger towards you as a heel. Because when you create those emotions will go back and buy another ticket to have those, to see what happens. Does that make, you know what I mean, fellas?
Yeah, most definitely, man. He is Trevor Murdoch. He is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Now,
he is the wise man. He is the learning tree.
We've taken so much of his time. Obviously, he's got to get back to training. He's got to chug some beers before the match on Saturday.
Boys, I got another podcast. I got to do another interview right after this one. I've got my media. I have media evenings after I get my day done. I'll bang out 5 or 6 media opportunities if I can in a row.
Got it, man. So definitely thank you for your time, man. Really appreciate it. And listen, your final message to Tyrus and Matt Cardona right now. right here on the HSP podcast. What's your message? What do you got to say right before match time?
Bring your best so I don't hear any bitching when I beat you guys. You know what I mean? I don't want to, that's all I ask. Just bring your best. And I expect nothing less. You know what I mean? Both them gentlemen have a love to be, they both want to be NWA World Champion. And so I expect that we're going to go out there and really leave it all out there in the ring. And I expect nothing less but the best from them guys. So at the end of it, I can raise my hand and you can all remember who the world champion is.
Thanks so much, Trevor, man. He is the two-time NWA World Champion. You can catch him this Saturday, Hard Times 3 on FITE. Definitely make sure you watch it, man. And thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, boys. I appreciate it.
Take care. All right, guys, that was Trevor Murdoch, trendsetter. Man, good to get to talk to him, man. Like, that's somebody that, we wanted to get on the show, and obviously we were able to do so at Hard Times 3 is this Saturday. Obviously, Matt Cardona and Tyrus taking on the NWA World Champion, Trevor Murdoch. Obviously, there's a little bit of controversy as well because, this whole Nick Aldis situation with Billy Corgan. I got to ask you, man, is that something that to you, if you're the talent, is that something that you're going to be like, man, this is overshadowing my moment here? Is that something that would bother you?
Because I'm the trendsetter. I want all the attention on me. No, but in reality, it'd be like, oh, you'd want to talk about it. But, as much as I was leaning more towards it being a distraction, Trevor explained it well, too. I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of he has to answer questions about it, of course, because everybody's going to ask him that type of question. But at the end of the day, it still brings eyes to the NWA, regardless of it, too. So good or bad press, it's still attention. It's still eyes focused on the product. And basically what I feel Trevor's main goal is, yes, you can talk about it. It's stuff there on the side that's looming that people are going to continually keep figuring out what's going to happen or what's the end result of it. But you know what? He's going to make you forget all about it for the main event. And I think that's what his main goal is.
Man, I honestly, you could tell he doesn't have an ego because there's some guys, like you said, that
very humble guy.
Yeah, there's some people that will let it bother them. They'll be like, hey, wait a minute, this is my effing moment. I'm not going to have this thing going to bother me. I'll go to Billy, be like, what's going on with this guy? He's, but he just wants to, put on a good show, and he's going to be center stage, man. Saturday night, a big night of wrestling, just everywhere. There's so much going on, and definitely, if you have time, guys, check it out. NWA Hard Times 3, available on FITE by Triller. Go definitely check it out. Hey, you know what? It's going to get people talking, too. This whole Billy Corgan, Nick Aldis thing is going to get people talking. People might get extra views out of it. It's worked before in other companies, too, right? With the whole CM Punk, Tony Khan, and everything like that. People went to watch Dynamite that Wednesday. So
yeah, but at the end of the day, Jeff, real quick, it's that whether it be the CM Punk situation, what's going on with Nick Aldis and then NWA, regardless, we all as fans still win at the end because although those controversial things and people want to talk about what's going on is, yes, intriguing. And at the end of the day, who ends up winning? The product in general. AEW has done well since CM Punk. WWE is doing well since the whole Vince McMahon scenario that now nobody's talking about anymore. And the NWA will move on past this whole scenario. However it gets resolved between Nick Aldis and Billy Corgan, it will get resolved, and then we'll move on. And like I said, all we are looking forward to right now, me as a fan, is that main event and see who is going to be walking out with that 10 pounds of gold at the end of the night.
Yeah, so for the trendsetter, I am Jeff Martin, and guys, want to wish you all, great holiday season as we get into that too, and stay tuned, man. Follow us on all our social media at HSP Podcast, at High Spot Podcast. Follow the YouTube, follow the Instagram, man. A lot of big things coming your way, like this interview with Trevor Murdoch, which hopefully you guys enjoy. And trendsetter, we will see you guys later on. You can take us home, buddy.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Really enjoy it. A lot more things looking forward to in the future with you guys. As you guys have stuck with us since the very beginning. And as much as we want to talk about what the future holds for us, we know you guys will be right there by our side all the way. You know why? Because we do this for one reason only. We do this for you guys, the crew.